my dream, my vision for myself is to be the greatest martial artist to ever live. So, although I'm very aware that it's me and him fighting right now.
Jon Jones is the youngest ever MMA fighter in the UFC. He still has a lot of space to grow, so we expect his career to go places if he stays out of trouble. With the kind of career he has, we can only speculate, but he must have a lot of moolah. We wanted to know where his money goes and did some research. Here then is Jon Jones' net worth, lifestyle, and how he spends his millions. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. Who is Jon Jones? Jonathan Dwight Jones, born on July 19, 1987 in Rochester, New York, is a professional mixed martial artist, currently signed to the Ultimate Fighting Championship, where he has competed in the light heavyweight division. He is a former two-time UFC light heavyweight champion, holding the title from March 2011 to April 2015, and from December 2018 to August 2020. He is also the youngest UFC champ in history. Jones held the interim UFC lightweight heavyweight championships from 2016 and as of October 2020. He is the second in the UFC's men pound-for-pound ranking. Jon Jones is less well-known than one of the women he dated, a pornographic actress, Jenna Jameson. The two had a relationship back in November 2012. He also dated Jesse Moses in 2005. He is seen as controversial with run-ins with the police and problems with the USADA. Before Colin McGregor and Ronda Rousey, Jon Jones was the biggest star in the UFC. He was the main player in the light heavyweight division for more than 20 years after debuting in 2008. Aside from a disqualification against Matt Hamill and a no decision against Daniel Cormier, he has only ever lost one fight. That makes him one of the most successful fighters ever in the octagon. When he wanted to get more money, he called on the best fighter he could fight in his weight class, Brock Lesnar. Unfortunately, that fight never happened. Jon Jones has the reputation of being a party animal and has a penchant for making things go wrong just when he's on top in life. Jon Jones is estimated to have a net worth of $10 million as of December 2020. He made a staggering $7,230,000 just from the fight purses throughout his career. Of course, that amount doesn't include pay-per-view points. Due to those undisclosed figures, his net worth is probably even more than $7.23 million. The total is even higher when you take his endorsements into account. These include Nike, Reebok, MuscleTech, GAT Sports, and K-Swiss, which are the ones we know about. Jon Jones has been on 69 different documentaries and shows in his lifetime. One can only assume that he gets paid to do those as well, so here's another source of income. Jon Jones has two brothers, Arthur and Chandler, who both play for the NFL. One can therefore expect that in such a family with healthy athletes, there must be a lot of competition when it comes to who is earning the most money. Maybe this motivates Jones to keep fighting and allows the UFC cash cow to keep using him. Early career. Before beginning his MMA career, Jones was a standout high school wrestler and state champion at Union Endicott High School in upstate New York. He also played football as a defensive lineman. Due to his slight frame, his coach nicknamed him Bones. He even won a national JUCO championship at Iowa Central Community College. After transferring to Morrisville State College to study criminal justice, he dropped out of college to begin his MMA career. Maybe if he studied longer, he would have been less in trouble with the law later in life. Jones made his professional MMA debut in April 2008. He amassed an undefeated record of 6 wins and no losses over a 3-month period, finishing all his opponents. In his last bout before signing with the UFC, Jones defeated Moses Gavin at BCX 5 for the USKBA Light Heavyweight Championship. He won the fight via TKO in the second round. Suspensions. Even with a record which includes 26 wins and only a single loss, Jon Jones has not had it all his way in the UFC, but he could have. Jones was expected to defend his title against Anthony Johnson on May 23, 2015 at UFC 187. However, on April 28th, Jones was stripped of the belt and suspended from the UFC indefinitely in connection with a hit-and-run incident where he crashed into a pregnant woman and then fled the scene on foot. Cormier, who lost against Jones at UFC 182 in January 2015, replaced him and went on to defeat Anthony Johnson to take the available UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. On October 23, 2015, the UFC announced that Jones had been reinstated to the active roster, nearly 6 months after his suspension was announced. A rematch with Cormier was expected to take place on April 23, 2016 at UFC 197. However, Cormier pulled out of the fight on April 1st, citing a foot injury, and was replaced by Ovince St. Preux. Jones defeated St. Preux by unanimous decision. That was not the last suspension of Jon Jones. The rematch with Cormier was rescheduled and expected to take place on April 9, 2016 at UFC 200. However, on July 6, 2016, Jones was removed from the bout by the USDA. On June 16, after a doping violation. On November 7, 2016, it was announced that Jones had been suspended for 1 year by the USADA, retroactive to July 7. 2 days later, it was announced that Jones had been stripped of his interim title, making him the first fighter in history to be stripped of a title twice. On December 15th, Jones was also suspended by the Nevada State Athletic Commission (NSAC) for 1 year. While on the sidelines, Jones fought retired UFC Dan Henderson in a grappling match for the Submission Underground 2 tournament on December 14th. Jones submitted to Henderson via an arm triangle choke at 6 minutes and 39 seconds. Jones still did not learn his lesson. On August 22nd, it was announced that Jones had been flagged once again for a doping violation by the USADA. He tested positive for turnamidol, an anabolic steroid. Jones was placed on provisional suspension as a result. On September 13th, USADA confirmed that both A and B samples of Jones tested positive for turnamidol. As a result, the California State Athletic Commission (CSAC) officially overturned the result of the fight to a no contest. Subsequently, UFC Dana White made the decision to strip Jones of the light heavyweight championship and return it to Daniel Cormier. On September 2018, it was announced by the USADA that Jones would serve a suspension of 15 months. From a potential suspension of 48 months, USADA applied a reduction of 30 months for Jones' cooperation in identifying another anti-doping offenses, and a further 3 months was applied by arbiter McLaren in relation to Jones' degree of fault. Charity and family. Despite his problems, Jones is seen as a family man with a long history of charity work. He lives in a mini mansion in Albuquerque with his wife and 3 daughters. I am not so sure about the whole family man thing. He does seem to love other stuff more than spending time with his family. The most notable charities he supports are the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation, and he often volunteers in his community. In fact, during protests after George Floyd's murder, a video surfaced showing Jones confronting vandals. They were spray painting and destroying property in his New Mexico neighborhood. Jones' cars and the trouble they cause him. The cars Jones buys sometimes lands him into trouble. For example, in 2012, Jones wrecked his Bentley by driving into a pole. He fled the scene of the crime, likely to escape any DUI charges. Jones did not learn from his mistake. He was involved in a hit-and-run incident in 2015. Fortunately, the SUV he was driving was rented. The incident left a pregnant woman injured, and again, Jones fled the scene of the crime. By now, most of us would have learned our lesson, but not Jon Jones. In 2020, he was arrested for driving whilst intoxicated and for negligent use of a firearm. This incident including him doing donuts in his Camaro while firing off a gun into the night. Yeehaw! Little crazy. We wonder how much exactly he has written off in damages. There's a running competition between Jon and his brothers on who can pimp out their rides the best. Jones does not just buy luxury cars, but Jones has them fitted with custom headlights, spruced up tires, flashy grills, televisions, and many more gadgets and extras. He is such a fan of cars that he once accepted $10,000 to do an autograph signing at SEMA, better known as Specialty Equipment Market Association. It is the largest vehicle enthusiast gathering in the world. Jones's manager was shocked to know how little Jones was paid to be there, but apparently Jones was simply happy to be there. He probably picked up on some tricks on how to pimp out his ride in a way that would make his brothers jealous. Guns. Jon Jones is a gun enthusiast. He has described firearms as his only hobby. He often frequents Calibers, a popular firearm store for enthusiasts. This store is near MMA Jim Jackson, Winklejohn, where he spends a lot of time training. Jones has a particular affinity for assault rifles and often has them custom fitted by professionals. His gun collection is rumored to have over 20 pieces. Apparently his favorite is an M4 clone with a unique scope. That makes it a hobby that can get quite expensive. Party life. Jones is known to frequent clubs, bars, and casinos in his free time. It may sound exceptionally good. I mean, he has all that money, so what is he still searching for? One wonders how things might have turned out if he'd led a more discreet lifestyle. Jones has left the light heavyweight division and is moving up to the heavyweight. We will see how it goes for him there, and if he can keep himself out of trouble. For someone with so much money, I think we are all still wondering what Jones is looking for out of life, because he certainly has not yet achieved it in his eyes. That's it for today. Join me next time for another great video.